What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We are back with another rugby preview. Today it's going to be Australia versus France, and this is a game I'm going to be really excited for. As we do in these videos, we chuck a game of Rugby 20 on the background of the teams that are going to be playing, and then over the top we talk about the official teams announced, go through some of the players we think are going to do well, some of the players we think will do bad, and finally we will give a score prediction. Australia rated slightly lower than France in this game because they weren't licensed, so we're going to play as Australia. Let's get this game kicked off and underway. Alrighty, L. Bell is going to get us kicked off. Not that that is a real fly half for Australia. So, France versus Australia. I mean, this is going to be a fantastic game. This is a game we do not get to see an awful lot happen, unfortunately. I mean, this is a game that never seems to line itself up quite perfectly in the World Cup. I'm not sure what it'll take for this game to happen at the World Cup. But these are two teams that I've always sort of wanted to see play for a long time now, because France have really started getting into their own. And Australia have always remained at that relatively high peak, but just struggle against some of the big boy nations as Butler goes across. They still struggle against teams like New Zealand and South Africa, but they definitely give as good as they can against those sorts of teams. We did see them playing in the Tri-Nations when they were playing New Zealand and Australia. Playing New Zealand and Argentina, sorry, they are Australia. And they were performing really well in that. It's nice to see some of the new boys coming through in that Australian team. We know how good they can be once they get their act together. We've seen it in multiple World Cups. As a Wales supporter myself, I have seen how difficult it can be to beat an Australian team. And as for France, they had a Six Nations they might have thought could have gone better. They certainly beat some teams that I was expecting them to maybe lose against, and then they ended up losing against teams I expected them to beat with relative ease. So, I mean, there's a couple of switch arounds there. So France have got a little bit to work on, but their Autumn Nations Cup from a year ago now is still ringing in the ears, and we know how good they can be once they manage to gel together, even with a relatively new team. So, let's start off talking about the France team to begin with. So, like I said, there's Six Nations for them, not gone quite how they probably would have wanted. I actually had France down to win by a Grand Slam this Six Nations before it all happened. I did that in one of the announcement videos. I did like a big preview for the entire event that was going to be going on. But France not managing to quite hit that mark. Unfortunately, a couple of games go wrong for them. They did manage to beat the overall winners. Eventually they beat Wales through that ridiculous Corey Hill sealing off of the ball in that 79th minute. But I'm really looking forward to see where France go with this. Of course, they've got their own World Cup coming up soon, so they're going to want to make sure they have that team together and can play well. So let's start off by talking about this actual France team. I'll chuck it on screen for you guys as I normally do, as we go for a lovely little crossfield kick here. I don't know if we can get to the end of this. That would have been lovely. I'll chuck it on screen for you guys. So starting off in the front row, Gross and Bamba. I love Bamba. I think he's a fantastic player. Going to be taking over in that tight head. Barlow is someone I'm not familiar with, actually, so that'll be a new one for me in the hooker. There's a couple of fantastic hookers in France, so I'm not sure about injuries and stuff going on with France. I haven't kept up with my France rugby, unfortunately, so I'm not sure whether people like Marchand and different people like that are going to be, or Camille Chat. I don't know where he's to. Moving back towards the lock, Garassi and Taufai Fanua. Tall combination there. Taufai Fanua is, I don't know what he is. Is he 6'8", I think now? Is he 6'7", 6'8"? I can't remember. He's a big, tall lad, though. We know how good he is at those the line-out situations. A couple of penalties do tend to go against him, so hopefully he can just hold his game back a little bit and not give away too many penalties if possible. But in the line-outs, an absolute demon. Looking forward to that back row. Dylan Cretin taking over in the 6 shirt. This time, of course, can play 6 or 8, so there might be some switching up in there. Jalange taking over the 7 and got captaincy for this game, so really looking forward to see how he gets on. And finally, Makalou takes over 8, and I really want to see more of Makalou. Ever since we saw him in that Autumn Nations Cup, he has been a bit of a standout player for me, and I'm really looking forward to see where he gets on. There's a real nice sort of malleability in this back row here. A couple of them can play multiple flanker positions and also that 8 switch up, so the back row can be switched around however you want it to, really. But I'm a big fan of Maku. Looking forward to see how he gets on. And it'd be nice to see Jalange take over in terms of the captaincy. No Charles Olivon and no Gregory Aldrit. So there's a good chance here for them to actually get some new boys on the field, get a few more caps under their belt, get some new captaincy going on. And what a game to take over as captain against Australia. That's a big game to take over captaincy. So best of luck to Jalanche in this one. Looking forward to the backs then. In the scrum half, Kuyu, who is slowly getting into his own. Of course, it's very difficult when you consider, you know, the opposition that he is up against. Even people like Baptiste Saran, who's sort of the second choice, is still, you know, playing fantastic rugby at the minute. Kuyu's certainly trying to get into his own. Again, for me, there's just a couple of little mistakes. Look at this crossfield kick. I mean, it's almost an interception there. But he's certainly getting up there. It will be nice to see him get on, but I think this will be a big game for him to try and get his stamp down. I think in the minute they're sort of fighting for that second string in terms of the scrum half area. So hopefully Kuyu can do all right there. At number 10, Carbonell taking over in that fly half position. Again, another player I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more. Jalibert is really beginning to enforce himself now in that fly half shirt for France. And Entomac, unfortunately, not going to be in that starting lineup either. So, good chance for Carbonell to try and get some more time in. Looking further back then, what about the wingers? Let's start off with the wingers first. Villiers, someone I talk quite highly of again, that Autumn Nations Cup for me, really bringing him into light for myself. I think he's done really well. Not the tallest guy in the world, not one of these big wingers we see anymore, but rapid, has played his sevens in his time. He's a bit of a beast when he gets on the ball, bit of a nightmare to stop, so looking forward to see him. Damien Penaud takes over that right wing. Probably a good call. No Teddy Thomas in this starting 15, but Damien Penaud is awesome under the high ball, and we got to see him, well, in a couple of matches, especially in that Scotland game. He was running around Duan van der Merwe like it was nothing, so got a good step on him. Looking forward to seeing that. The centre partnership, Dante and Arthur Vincent. This is going to be a real nice partnership. Again, Dante for me only really came into my limelight in the Autumn Nations Cup, but since then has really solidified him in that inside centre channel. Looking forward to seeing that. And Arthur Vincent, a lot of people will probably want to see Vakatawa maybe over him. They offer two slightly different game styles, but Arthur Vincent is super quick. And he's actually quite a powerful lad. Again, not one of the tallest players, I wouldn't say, from memory of how tall he is, but certainly got a good lot of power behind him, can run through people. And finally, in that fullback position, Jaminet. Jaminet, I'm going to go with the pronunciation. Bear with me with some of the French squad pronunciations. I do try my best. Not a player I know a lot of. It's a shame we're not going to get to see Dulan in that starting lineup. Because I am a big fan of Dulan, but it'd be nice to see them swap around a little bit, get some new players in. We will just do some subs in the background here. Nathaniel Fox, fantastic player. But overall, it's a strong 1 to 15. They haven't actually gone for a lot of inexperience here. There's a lot of big names here. So I think they're going to do both for Australia and France. They're not going to be messing about. They sort of want to try and get their stamp on this game and try and make the most of it. So sort of what we expect from them, but as a starting 15, looking very strong. We'll quickly check out the subs because we've just started out the second half here. There's going to be a couple names I'm not going to be fantastic with here. Etrilia, unfortunately, I don't know. Valka Falatea? It looks like Falatau because I've read the Welsh team too much. I'm not familiar with any of those front row players at all, so going to be interesting to see how they get on. So they're, again, expanding out, trying out some new players, going to be getting in there. Presenti will be coming on at some point in that lock department for them again. Another good player. Again, another one who gives away a couple too many penalties. Just needs to simmer down on his game. We'll try and slow down the France team here in the background as we talk about them. Actually, they're doing very well. In that 20 shirt, Vanderberg, or Van Verberg. I'm going to mess that name up. I'm awfully sorry. I don't know that one fantastically. However, at 21, Woki, who is is it Voki or Woki? Someone in the French subscriber list, I'm sure, will be able to give me a better pronunciation for that one. I think it's more Voki, but I think he is a fantastic player. Again, him with Makalou coming in, they can play the 6 and the 8 together, I think, of them. So I think it'll be really nice. Interesting to note that France have gone for the 6-2 split here. Loading up on those forwards, so obviously they're aware that Australia are going to be a big, powerful forwards-based team, so they're going to have to try and counter that. 22, I'm not going to be sure about this as a replacement. However, 23, Boutier, of course, we get to see how fantastic he was. We still remember his magnificent 90-metre clearance kick from his own try line, a superb player. So a big good mix of bench here. It'll be interesting to see how they get on in that second half. If they're already ahead, will they get some of these new boys on, or the lesser cap players more, just to try and get them on? But there are certainly some big names there to try and help bolster the ranks, and there's a good amount of malleability in there, especially with the 6 forwards going in. They should be able to meet some of the scrum and maul capacity that Australia are always going to bring. We know how forceful and forward-based Australia are, so be interesting to see how they get on. Talking of which, let's talk about the Australian team. We are playing them and we're currently winning. We're doing quite well, actually, as the Australian team. Australia, we don't get to see a lot of in the Northern Hemisphere, unfortunately. I really only caught them through the Tri Nations. I saw some of their games against New Zealand and Argentina. things going okay for them. They would definitely like to be getting a few more wins, I reckon, against some of the teams like New Zealand, but we know how hard that is. Just ask Tonga with that outrageous loss. So let's have a look at the forwards for the Australian team. James Slipper taking over in that loose head. Brandon Penga Amosa is someone I actually don't know at all in that hooker position, so looking forward to see how he gets in. Alatoa is a superb player. Really looking forward to see. He's a big boy. I reckon we're going to see some big crash balls from him. Be nice to see him getting back on this pitch. Matt Phillip and Salakai Alotto. Again, another fantastic player. So the lock department for them is looking strong as well. So they've gone similar to France. They know neither team's going to mess around. They've loaded up on the big boys. They're going to go with the heavy hitters and this forward pack. I think it's going to be a real impactful game, especially in the breakdown areas and that sort of scrummaging areas. There's going to be a big fight for. Michael Hooper taking over the captaincy. Of course, he's the captain for what feels like forever now. Big fan of Michael Hooper. Superb in that breakdown position. Is he as good as Michael Pocock? I'll leave that one open to the comments down below. We'll see how they get on. But I do like Michael Hooper. I think he's a fantastic player and very good captain, very good leadership. And Harry Wilson will take over in that number 8 shirt finally. So again, like I said, France going big with the forwards here. I'm really struggling to get out of my my own. Oh, that could be bad. We'll go over there. Okay, we'll take the scrum. Fine. I literally couldn't get out of there for about 5 minutes then. But they've got some big forwards there. They're going to be looking to match this France team, especially in the scrum and more areas. Moving on to the back, Jake Gordon takes over in the scrum half. So no Nick White. Again, not sure about injuries and so on for the Australian team. Maybe they're just trying some new boys out. So Jake Gordon will take over in that scrum half. Noah Lolesio is someone I don't know either, actually, for the fly half position. So there's a couple of big fly halves for Australia. It's interesting to see a name I don't know there. Corey Obiti in the left wing, an absolute monster. I did see him in the Tri-Nations. I think it was against Argentina, where he did 3 enormous tackles, like within about 20 seconds, and then stole the ball and went for a try. Superb player. Like seeing him, a very, very aggressive wing, but a superb player all round. Tomua. And Hunter Paisami, I do know Hunter Paisami in the outside centre. Again, a very rapid player. Looking forward to handling. Could leaving a little bit once, I think, with Paisami. Some of the games I've seen him in contact, he hits contact so hard on crash balls. The ball does come dislodged a little bit, so hopefully he can sort that out. Tom Wright in the right wing, and finally Tom Banks in the fullback. So I'd probably say this is probably a lesser capped team by just looking at the team sheet than the France team that's going to be coming on. But still a strong 15. We are nearing that 70th minute as King can get this out to Dawson on this right wing. Ooh, can't make it through. We'll quickly check out the reserves list. Lonergan going to be making his debut at some time. Angus Bell and Topu is going to be going on in that prop department as well. Darcy Swain going to be making his debut. Naisarani? Oh, in fact, do I know Naisarani? I'm not going to be sure about a couple of these names. This seems like a much lesser capped bench than the French one here. McDermott taking over in that reserve 21. Ikitau is another debutant, and finally Kellaway. So, I mean, the debutants coming alive here for them. 4 debutants from the bench. So, in terms of the benches, the France has got a much more experienced bench than Australia. So Australia are going to be looking to try and get ahead early on in this game, get the points above, so that when they put the new boys on, they're not afraid to concede a few points, as will most likely happen. But both teams here will be absolutely shaping up to have a big forwards game. The scrumming and the mauling is going to be absolutely brutal, I imagine. It's going to be horrendous to see. But really looking forward to see how they get on, especially that Alatoa crash with Gross is going to be a superb fight. We're going to really look forward to see who can hold up that side of the scrum. So what do we think in terms of score prediction? Both teams coming in with large teams. I would say in terms of running play and ferocity, I would actually maybe side with Australia. However, looking at that bench list, when I do these videos, I don't really look at the teams till I start doing the video. I think the France has got a more competitive bench, so I'm actually going to call this is going to be a France win. I don't think it'll be a great deal. I'm going to say France to win by 7. Just sort of pick these arbitrary numbers. But that's going to be my call for the game, guys. What do you guys think? Make sure you drop it down in the comments who you think's going to win, who you think's going to score, who should we keep a lookout for. If any of you guys have got some information about players that maybe I don't know a lot about, as I've said in this video, feel free to drop it down in the comments. I always like to learn a little bit more about some of the teams we don't get to see that often. I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. We will be doing these videos for all of the Summer Tour games as they're going on. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.